Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Rhea Ripley has had the worst start to the week, but in the midst of her losing her title, Jey Uso has spoken about his chemistry with the star. The star also talked about their team name. Earlier this week, Rhea Ripley faced Io Sky in a match to defend her Women's World Championship. Unfortunately, she became too occupied with Bianca Belair during the match, which distracted her. She ended up losing the title to Sky and had a complete breakdown, talking about how it had been heartbreak after heartbreak for her. BWGS podcast caught up with Jey Uso recently. The star has been connected to Rhea Ripley but has not teamed up. However, the star was happy to talk about his chemistry with Ripley and also spoke about their team name, mentioning that he only recently learned how to pronounce it. He also said he would be happy to work across from her, with her, or by her, whatever it meant. I was just saying JHA, hell yeah, have great chemistry, great chemistry. Across, with her, by her. You know, mommy's always on top. Yeet. He didn't say they would be teaming together in the future, but there seems to be at least one well-wisher Ripley has on WWE Raw, even after her issues with others and Damian Priest leaving to go on SmackDown. Does Rhea Ripley need to work with Jey Uso? Currently, Ripley does not have too many allies on WWE Raw. She's no longer part of the Judgment Day. Her friendships with Bianca Belair and Io Sky have fallen apart recently. She also no longer has Damian Priest's support as the star is on another brand, although they remain friendly despite this. Jey Uso and her forming their team might help both of them, as they are currently facing challenging situations heading toward WrestleMania with Ripley without her title and Uso facing Gunther. The locker room was silent. The energy that once radiated from Rhea Ripley was gone, replaced by an emptiness that hung heavy in the air. The WWE Women's World Championship no longer rested on her shoulder, it was gone. The title that had defined her dominance, her identity, had slipped away in front of thousands of screaming fans. Now, she sat alone on a bench, her back against the cold steel of a locker. Her knuckles were white from gripping the edge of the bench, her breathing ragged. She had fought with everything she had, but in the end, it hadn't been enough. She had lost. The weight of it pressed down on her chest like a boulder. The Judgment Day wasn't here. Damian Priest was busy with his own problems as World Heavyweight Champion. Finn Balor and J.D. McDonough were handling Judgment Day's issues elsewhere. Dominic, well, he hadn't even been around when she walked through the curtain, head hung low. She was alone. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, breaking the silence. Rhea didn't bother looking up. She didn't want to talk to anyone, least of all another superstar who had probably just watched her fail. But then, a familiar voice spoke. Damn, fam. I know that feeling. Rhea slowly lifted her gaze. Jey Uso stood in the doorway, arms crossed over his chest. His expression wasn't smug, nor was it sympathetic. It was understanding. She scoffed, shaking her head. You don't know anything, Us. Jey let out a chuckle and stepped inside, leaning against the lockers across from her. Nah, I know exactly what it's like. Losing when the whole world thinks you're unstoppable. Feeling like the people closest to you ain't got your back. Been there, done that. Rhea clenched her jaw. She knew what he was referring to the moment he finally broke free from the bloodline, the war with Roman Reigns, the betrayal that still haunted him. He had walked away from everything he thought defined him. But this wasn't the same, was it? I'm not Judgment Day's weak link, she muttered, more to herself than to Jey. I'm not. Jey tilted his head. Did I say you were? Rhea blinked, looking up at him. Let me tell you something, Jey continued, his voice calm. Losing a title don't make you weak. Letting it break you? That's what does. She hated how much those words hit her. She wanted to argue, to push him away, but there was something in Jey's tone that made her hesitate. You've been running things, huh? Jey said, smirking slightly. holding Judgment Day together, making sure they all stayed on top. Rhea narrowed her eyes. So what? Jey pushed off the lockers and walked closer. So, when was the last time they made sure you stayed on top? That question struck a nerve. Because the truth was, they hadn't. Not in the way she had done for them. She had sacrificed for this faction, for Dom, for Priest, for all of them. And yet, where were they now? Jey sighed. Look, I ain't here to kick you when you're down. I just know what it's like to be surrounded by people who only see you as the muscle, the insurance policy. They love you when you're winning, but when you're losing? He shook his head. They disappear. Rhea felt something sting behind her eyes, but she refused to let any tears fall. She clenched her fists, trying to steady her breathing. She wouldn't break. Jey studied her for a moment before he did something unexpected. He sat down next to her. You got options, Mommy, he said quietly. Rhea turned to him, eyebrows furrowed. What the hell does that mean? Jey smirked. It means you don't gotta go through this alone. Judgment Day ain't the only ones who see what you bring to the table. She scoffed. You try to recruit me or something? Jey chuckled. Nah. Just saying, you and me? We know what it's like to be loyal to a group that don't always got our back. Maybe it's time you start looking out for yourself the way you've been looking out for them. Rhea exhaled slowly. And what? Work with you? Jey shrugged. Could be fun. Imagine the chaos. He grinned. And let's be real, we'd make one hell of a team. Rhea looked away, considering his words. The thought of standing beside Jey Uso instead of Judgment Day felt strange, but also oddly intriguing. He was right about one thing, she had spent so much time making sure everyone else stayed on top that she had forgotten about herself. Jey stood up, stretching. I'ma let you think on that. Just remember, Mommy, you don't gotta carry all this weight alone. As he walked toward the door, Rhea called out. Jey. He paused, looking back. She smirked, just slightly. I'll think about it. Jey nodded, flashing his signature grin. That's all I needed to hear. As he disappeared down the hall, Rhea sat back, her mind racing. Maybe she had lost the title tonight. Maybe Judgment Day wasn't there for her the way she had been for them. But something about Jey's words stuck with her. Maybe this was just the beginning of something new.